Hello and welcome to Czar Sebastian's Intro to Visual Basic first 3 units in Moodle. As you can see, we have our basic interface before you. You have the getting started items, you have the unit laid out, and it's clearly marked with the start here as well as the calendar, and the calendar with the highlighted pink items detail when certain things are due. We will hear more about that as that goes through. However, it's good to see the different elements. These are also links so you can see different items. You can also go to our June and you can highlight on each one of the pink dates, and it actually tells you items that are due on that day. Those items are actually links as it goes back and forth. You'll also notice that those dates correspond to different dates in the intro. Let's take a look at the getting started. The getting started is put in place in order to allow students to have an idea of what they need to do. You'll notice this is a list of materials and a video to watch. Required visual basic text. It has the link to where that required visual basic text is, and I'll go ahead and take you to that website now. You'll notice this is what it actually looked like. It's copyright 2012 by Jan Morelli, and it is a Lawrenceville Press book. Going back, it requires also Visual Studio 2010. You'll be using the Visual Basic portion. You can get this off of DreamSpark, which is a website set up by Microsoft that allows students and teachers to get a discount or free software for use in their class. And of course, the required watch introductory video, which is the one you're doing right this second. You can check mark off those items to indicate that you have completed them, making sure that you know where to start. Now you'll notice that it's broken up into overall course resources as well as the individual units. We've got a Visual Basic question and answers section. This is a questions and answers section for all of the items, not necessarily for an individual unit. We have vocabulary and objects and commands, which are books that are by unit breakdown that have those items within it. We'll go ahead and head on to the vocabulary section. You notice the vocabulary section is alphabetized. So you have an algorithm definition as well as the application definition. But we also have a browse by category. Your browse by category allows you to see which units have which vocabulary items, and they're clearly marked and clearly indicated. So you're able to scroll. If you're working in Unit 1, you can actually go back to the Unit 1 resources. The vocabulary as well as the objects and or commands are also in the individual units as a PDF document, so you're able to see which tracks with which. Now as we move on to the individual unit, you'll see where it says Unit 1, Chapter 1 Expectations. What should I learn? Unit 1, Chapter 2 Lesson Flow. What should I do? Lecture, discussion, Q&A, as well as quiz and hands-on. Most of the quiz and hands-on items are self-explanatory, but let's start with the expectations, or what should I learn from this unit. It brings up another window that actually breaks down the items that you should learn for the individual unit that corresponds to page numbers in the actual book. You'll note also that these expectations and this general form of scaffolding per unit is not only in Unit 1, it's based in Unit 2 and Unit 3, so once you get used to the form in one, you can move to the other. So we've now moved on to lesson flow. The lesson flow gives you an idea of what you're supposed to do. You'll note that it's broken down in required and recommended. So you have items that are required to do and items that are recommended to do. You'll also notice that you have due dates that correspond to the date, so you're able to see the difference between the two and be constantly reminded of the due date. So the other one was, the discussion was May 25th. May 25th is over here. The quiz and hands-on, May 25th. May 25th is also on the calendar. You'll notice the lecture portion is broken up in a required and supplemental. Required both has the lecture in a PDF document as well as a PowerPoint document, enabling you to use either one of those depending upon your format. You also have the Visual Basic objects and the vocabulary. All the contents of both of those items are in the vocabulary and the Visual Basic objects books that are located in the resources in Moodle, in the overall resources. And then you have supplemental material. If there's supplemental material that goes with a particular chapter, this supplemental material it actually has movies that allow the individual to look through and see some examples of how to do running an application, adding in a component, etc. Now, as we move from the lecture, we'll take a look at the discussion. You have discussion posts with 2 dates on them. You'll notice May 14th and May 25th. That actually corresponds to the due date. May 25th is your response to individuals. May 14th is the first response required. Once again, a continual reminder to you, hey, these things are due on this day. Don't want you to forget. It's very, very easy to forget. You'll notice also that the unit discussions match per unit, and as do the dates. So the dates roll over and change depending upon what unit you're in, and also correspond to calendar. Then we have a general question and answer session that is required. That's 12th of May, 1900, listed right there so you can take a look. Then we have the assignments or quizzes and hands-on clearly labeled with dates, and that are actually matched the lesson flow. You'll also notice that the dates are in the lesson flow, right? So as I take a look, I'm constantly reminded of the dates on every page. It's very difficult for me to go to any particular page and not see the dates. So you have them in the lesson flow, you have them in the unit itself, you have them in the calendar. There we are back in unit. So the Unit 1 quiz, May 25th. Let's go take a look at that. Now right now it's not open, but I can preview the quiz. And of course, I have my normal true and false multiple choice. It asks me a question, I answer the question, and I get results. But it has the due date, once again, listed on it. So by the time it closes, you'll know exactly what that is because the due dates are mentioned and listed multiple times. I can see it right there where it says May 25th. So I know exactly when things are due. Now we'll go to the hands-on portion. You note that the hands-on portion starts with a PDF. It's not open yet, so you can't submit information as of yet. And also when you're naming it, make sure it says if it's Unit 2, number 1, it's 2-1. So in this particular case, I've downloaded it. Let's open up the PDF document. In this particular case, if it was problem 1 from Unit 1, it would be 1-1. So in our case, it would be 1-1. Here's the items that's required for it to do. So I've got set the appropriate objects, write the application, modify chicken joke. So I have an idea, the student has an idea of what they're supposed to do. This one would be called 1-1. Number 2 would be called 1-2 or Unit 1, number 2. Item 3 would be 1-3, etc. And I have all the items listed of what I'm supposed to do for those hands-on items. After I'd complete them, I'd zip them all together in one folder and I'd submit it for this item. Notice also, once again, I like to draw your attention to all the dates that correspond to the calendar, so it's easy to follow both back and forth, and each one of them follows the same sort of scaffolding. So once you get used to one particular unit, the way one particular unit works, it's very easy to then go back to the individual units and say, okay, I know how this unit works, I know how this unit works, I know how this unit works. And I know the general form for it. Notice also I can go to the individual due date and click on those links that takes me to those locations. So if I click on Unit 1 hands-on or Unit 1 quiz, it'll actually take me to that location so then I can begin exploring it as necessary. Thank you very much for your time. I hope this makes sense to you, and if you have questions, we have a question and answer discussion board.